Hey everybody, how's it going? Bork here, and I'm gonna be talking about the destruction warband skills for Mordheim for Paramod. So let's get into it. The first skill that we have is actually called I think it's called Hunger. Black Hunger. It's called Black Hunger. I mean, the basic version, you're probably gonna be just using it on what do you call it? The warp guards who take a lot of strength and a spear, and you tried to pierce parry with that spear. You could also use it on like ranged damage units, but I think the main use is the warp guards really. Yeah, so I think it's not a bad skill, the basic version. Um, you could be also using the basic version on the Daredevil builds. But I think Daredevil builds are kind of more interested in taking the mastery, but at the same time, I mean, 5% is not like a huge difference for the dodge piercing for the Daredevil builds. I think the main point of the skill is just for the Daredevil, because yeah, like the Red Ogre, for example, Red Ogre Daredevil builds. Like those chains don't have like any dodge piercing or anything like that, so this is like the way to go about it, right? Also with like kidney strike and so on. Yeah, and like combined with Daredevil, it's pretty good. It's just more damage. It's relevant. It costs 2 SP, so sometimes, like the mastery version, you are even able to set up before going into the combat. I would use the basic version when you are already in the combat. I'm gonna put this one into just good. I think it's just good. You can also combine it with Strongbow, right? Okay, the next skill that we have is Numbing, Numbing Poison. So I think this sort of a skill can be used in combination with something like Hamstring, and definitely in combination with Pinning Shot. With this poison, I think you can quite easily create scenarios where you're able to take all of the SP from the enemy unit, so they just cannot move whatsoever, and that can get like really freaking toxic and awful to play against. But I don't really like want to play against these builds, which like reduce like SP and then you're like getting tortured and stuff. Yeah, I think if you're going for like the numbing poison, you are basically just playing like a Skaven warband, like a ranged warband, which just focuses on getting rid of all of the enemy SP from the enemy. Yeah. It just focuses on getting blah 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 blah. But to be honest, I haven't really like seen it in practice properly, so I'm just gonna like put both of these into insane. I think that's fair. I think you're probably also using the skill on what do you call it? On the henchman, or like the yeah, I think you can use it on henchman. I think you can use the henchman. We're coming now to warp poison, and with warp poison, it does the same thing, but instead it reduces offensive points by 1, and this one offensive points by 2. With the basic version, I think it's usable. I think it's usable on some henchmen, but I don't think it's as relevant as this. Stacking this with crippling shot. Like you can reduce enemies' offensive points combining this and crippling shots. You can do that. And that's gonna be kind of good actually. So I'm gonna put this one to good. And this one I'm gonna be putting into God tier. Because when you combine this with crippling shot, you basically have like a support archer with a shuriken, and the shuriken has plus 10% hit chance. You basically have, I'm using this like on like a Night Runner build. This combined with crippling shot, when you attack an enemy and they fail their poison resistance check, they get what do you call it? Yeah, they get their offensive points reduced by 4 in total, and that lasts for 3 rounds, which is it's forever. Like if you hit a henchman with this combination, you reduce their offensive points to 1. Like the poor henchmen, they cannot do anything against you. Like that's like the real power of Skaven, that although Skaven are like technically squishy, they're also able to reduce your offensive points to complete nothingness with poison. And in that case, it doesn't really matter how squishy you are. It doesn't matter if you have like cloth armor or like light armor. And it's also like universal defense. It works against like range attacks, melee attacks. It's good against spells because spells also cost offensive points. It's completely insane. And also, like, if you have this sort of a support archer in your warband, it becomes a #1 priority for the enemy to take down. Because if they don't manage to take it down, then you're gonna do this thing again. You're gonna throw out 3 crippling shots on 3 additional enemies, and like this, you can basically apply this sort of a condition to the entire warband, entire enemy warband. It's completely and utterly insane. Let's get to the Skaven passives. So Art of Silent Death. If you have a dagger, if you have bracers, or if you have fighting claws, you get 10% critical melee critical hit chance. And the mastery gives you plus 20% melee critical hit chance. So the basic version, I can totally see this being used on henchmen. I've talked about how henchmen are not as consistent at critting enemy units as heroes because they do not have like access to the mastery, to the masteries, which further improve their critical strike chance and stuff. But for Skaven, I think this is actually pretty good. Like I can see some builds, some henchmen using this sort of a thing. So I'm actually like even willing to put this into good. Really. I don't think crit, Scave, and henchmen are as bad as for all the other warbands. Maybe I should put this like into not bad. I think this would be like more appropriate ranking. As for the mastery, it gives plus 20% critical hit chance, and this is like this easily goes to God tier. 20% crit chance is so freaking much, and the condition for this is like super easy to achieve. You just need like 1 dagger, and dagger also gives you plus 4% crit chance, so it like stacks with it, you know. And then you add a sword in and you have 32% crit chance. It's completely insane. this is like the reason why you play these Skaven crit builds. This is why why crit Skaven are actually possible to do. It's because of this skill. Now you could also use this for fighting claws, but I think I think it's pointless. Like for fighting claws, you're already getting armor penetration from like fighting claws. With fighting claws, you're just better off using some kind of a daredevil build or something like that. Yeah, but for I think like crit Skaven is really that freaking insane. I think this easily goes into the god tier. Swarm. I love this skill. This is so awesome. So basically, this gives you plus 5% hit chance and plus 5% crit chance when at least 2 of your allies are engaged with enemy. And the master gives you plus 10% crit chance and plus 10% hit chance. So I'm gonna like say like a bit of a funky story. This skill used to give like plus 10% hit chance and plus 10% crit chance, and the master plus 20% hit chance and plus 20% crit chance. It was utterly fucking insane. It was completely insane. It was easily like god tier here. It's that freaking powerful. But right now it's like back to vanilla values. Oh, and I think I actually did some contribution in nerfing the skill because I was playing in a tournament, crit based Skaven. Oh my god, it was disgusting. But yeah, back to this. Now that it's like back in vanilla values, I think the skill is a lot more reasonable. And here's the thing about the condition. The condition is so freaking easy to fulfill. You just need to have like a warband that makes sense, you know? You just need to create like a henchman, like a tank henchman that goes immediately before your crit with this with the Art of Silent Death, you know? Like if you combine this skill with Art of Silent Death, you have plus 30% crit chance. Now add that dagger in and that sword and you have plus 42% crit chance. And now add the accuracy in. Let's say you have like 19 accuracy. You have 61% crit chance. And now combine it with Vital Strike. Now you have 91% crit chance. And that's a lot of crit chance, you know. But yeah, the basic version, I think it's usable. You can like use it on some henchmen. I don't think it's as good though. I don't think it's bad exactly though. I think it's not bad. Like not to mention like Swarm, you can also use this for like the fighting claws because it gives you like hit chance as well. So for armor penetrating Black Skaven, this also works. Not to mention Swarm can also be used with Weeping Blade builds for like the poisoners and stuff. So yeah. And this one I'm gonna put to insane. I think it's insane. Yeah. And with this, I think I'm gonna put like Art of Silent Death to good, back to good. Because I think Art of Silent Death can also be used on some kind of counterattack builds. I think it makes some counterattack shield builds possible. Yeah. So, Poison Expert, attack skills and spells bypass 15% poison resistance, and the mastery it's 30%. I mean, if you're using some kind of a Verminkin poison build with either of these poisons, you're probably also taking this so that it's more consistent for you to actually apply that poison for you. So I think this just goes to good, because you use that in that build. And for this just goes to the god tier, because it allows you to more consistently apply the poison, right? These poisons are so incredibly powerful that you want to apply them ideally on the first strike and then move on to the next target and the next target and the next target. And this is what Poison Expert does. So yeah. Like, not to mention, there are some characters in the game which have a lot of poison resistance, like let's say 100% poison resistance. Like, Poison Expert allows you to get lucky, and if you apply this poison, it's gonna last for 3 rounds because you got lucky. Not to mention also, like, if you're dealing with too much poison resistance in the enemy warband, you can take the Runes of Venom. And Runes of Venom are gonna like slowly start chipping away at like the poison resistance of the enemy. There are also like the clouds and like the Globadier stuff, which can also reduce poison resistance. It's also usable. Okay, and let's start with Touch of Palsy. Basically, when you strike somebody with the skill and you deal damage, it applies a debuff to them for 2 rounds, and yeah, they lose -1. They reduce their maximum offense points by 1, and it lasts for two rounds. And the mastery is the same, but it's easy to master, and it lasts for 3 rounds. So I kind of agree with Kitten Paw, Skaven Paw, with Kitten Paw, that the skill is actually rather uninspired. And this skill is just a better Righteous Fury. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's a better Righteous Fury. So this obviously goes to the gods tier. I think every single melee henchman wants the skill. Even like some, I can see this also being used on, what do you call it? On heroes and leaders. You can also use it on them. As for the mastery, I mean, the only appeal of the mastery is that you're able to stack it with like the basic version, right? Yeah, that's the only appeal of the mastery. You're just able to stack it with the basic version. But usually, like, with the Cult of the Possessed, you usually invest into some other skills, and like the skills are the skill points are usually tied to go for the mastery. I don't think it's as bad, but yeah, I think it's like not bad. Now we have Attracting Lure. So the basic version, it costs 2 OP and 2 SP. And basically, if the enemy fails a leadership test with a plus 5%, they flee. And the mastery is that it makes the leadership test more difficult. I believe it gives -25%. Yeah. No. The basic version, basically, it has nothing. The basic version has no modifiers to the leadership test, and the mastery has it reduces the leadership test by 25%. Oh my god, this skill is so freaking important for Cult of the Possessed. And why is it so important? Because like often like these heroes such as Possessed and like a mutant or the Norse guy, the Marauder, they sometimes get like these hand mutations, and they sometimes get it on a left hand, so that you're forced to dual wield, and dual wielding during leveling can really suck because you cannot like use it efficiently. You cannot use dual wielding efficiently until you are level 10 with your characters. And like this skill basically saves these characters because then you can attack for 2, you can attack for 3, so that's your second attack, and if you have like 2 leftover offensive points, you suddenly have like use for these offensive points. I can try to make the enemy flee, and like that's amazing because your character is at least like attacking and stuff. Not to mention, this is also really powerful because you can make other warband members attack with you. If somebody flees, your warband members are gonna join in on the attack, so you can make them do more attacks overall. So it's really, really freaking powerful. And because of the way I'm talking about this skill, I mean, the only issue that the skill has is like the leadership test. Like the enemy might pass the test sometimes, and it sucks. So I'm gonna put this one. I kind of wanted to put this into really good. You can also like combine the skill with skills like Mighty Charge, right? And then you don't have to like Adrenaline Rush for the second attack. You can try using this instead. Um, I think it's fair if I put this into the really good category. I think it's fair if I put this into the really good category. As for the mastery, yeah, mastery is even better because it's easy to master, and with easy to master, this skill is gonna become more consistent. Like 25% reduction in the leadership test. It's a huge deal. So I think this one is easily God tier, and I think it's like the bread and butter for offensive cult of the possessed. Blood Offering. So Blood Offering, when you hit an enemy attack, it costs 3 offensive points. When you hit an attack on the enemy, you get buff for 2 rounds. You get plus 15% damage increase and plus 5% crit chance, and the mastery plus 20% damage increase and plus 10% damage, plus 10% crit chance for 3 rounds. The basic version, I probably wouldn't really use it. I think it just falls into like the not bad category. It's definitely usable, but I wouldn't use it. Like I can maybe see the skill being used on characters who don't necessarily want to go the crit route, but they still want to get like some increased damage. Yeah. As for the mastery, I think you're mostly using on crit builds, and you stack it with fatality, because fatality also wants you to do the same thing. It wants you to damage the enemy, so you end up with plus 20% crit chance, and then you just keep doing your basic attacks, and you end up with something like 60% crit chance. It's really, really good. I could see this being an insane in combination with fatality, but by itself I'm just gonna like put this. I think it's at the top of really good. So Tzeentch's wording increases magic resistance by 20%, and this one is easy to master, but it increases magic resistance by 30% instead. It's basically like a cheaper resist magic with cheaper requirements as well. You only need like 9 intelligence for it. Yeah, like it's really good. Like, I think both of them are really good. I think this one is slightly better, but yeah, it's a cheaper resist magic. You can't go wrong with it. Not to mention, like the Cult of the Possessed units, they usually also like going for a talisman, so it stacks up. It stacks really nicely. You could also like combine it with a demon soul, right? And at that point, how much magic resistance are we talking about? We're talking about 60% magic resistance. That's kind of insane, you know. And I feel like that's the sort of a thing that would actually save you from necromancers. So yeah. As for the Chaos Evolution, it's basically a skill that whenever you do the jump action or you do the jump down action, whenever you do the jump down action, whenever you do the climb action, or whenever you do the leap action, there's an 80% chance that your SP gets back. And additionally, if you try to delay, there's a 40% chance that you get your SP back. Um, yeah, this skill actually used to be 80% SP, like getting SP back whenever you delay. I think it was like probably way too good. I never got to play with it, with that form, but it was way too good at 80%. So I understand why it got nerfed. And it can feel like really awesome whenever you go for the delay and you actually do manage to get your SP back. You're able to actually kind of set up good 2 turns with your warband by delaying with the skill. Also, it's kind of also nice for like passing those athletic tests, right? I think the skill is like a good alternative to, what do you call it? To like swift jump, quick leap, and the quick climbing as well. I think it's a good alternative, you know? You can choose if you want to go for like the chaotic advantage or the other skill, or those other skills. Um, yeah. So I think the basic version, I think it's good. Getting your SP back is relevant. You may get sometimes like frustrated and stuff if you didn't get your SP back, but it's fine. The mastery is oh, sorry. The mastery is like easy to master, and it gives, what do you call it? It gives +1 movement speed. I mean, if you have invested into the skill with your hero, then you might as well go for this skill as well and get that additional movement speed. I think this is also just good. Basically, cheaper knowledge, more time. Well, it's not cheaper knowledge, more time. It's basically knowledge, more time, but like in one skill with this. It's good. Um, and lastly, we have chaotic advantage. Oh, yeah, chaotic advantage. So, whenever you go for a dodge stance or a parry stance or a web of steel or a sidestep, there's a 40% chance that you get back 5 offensive points. And the mastery gives you, it's an 80% chance, but it's easy to master. The basic version is just infuriating. I mean, this is not unlike, what do you call it? Unlike Hunter, because Hunter can trigger multiple times during attacks. This cannot trigger multiple times during your turn. You either get it or you don't. So this skill just ends up being like really fucking annoying. Like, it's so unreliable. I basically hate the skill. Um, I think like a more healthy design for the skill, if it would be like 80% still, it's like the mastery version, but it would give back just 2 offensive points instead of having just like some kind of like an RNG fest where the Dark Soul gets like 5 offensive points, and it's just really annoying because they got 5 offensive points for some reason. I think like 80% and get back 2 offensive points would be a much healthier design. So. The skill basically just triggers in all the wrong times. I mean, it's not bad. I have to put this in the not bad category. But I hate the skill. I hate it with passion. Truly. I don't know. I think it's definitely not bad, but I hate the skill with passion. I hate the current iteration. As for the mastery, it's 80%, but I hate the skill as well. It's really freaking good. Especially, I think this is a must-have on Chaos Spawn. Like this with Chaos Spawn, and if you get it, it's completely insane. It's basically the best defense for Chaos Spawn is getting those offensive points so that the enemy is actually scared of attacking you or touching you, or like since this gives back 5 offensive points. Possessed can use it, right? You can attack, attack, attack. That's 2, 3, 4. And then as a counter attack, it costs like 5 offensive points. Also, like, I'm sure there are like some shield builds which are able to counter attack with this so many times. Yeah. The most annoying part about the skill is that it's like 80%. And I think I'm okay with it, but it's like the 80% because it's called chaotic advantage, so sometimes it may just not work. But it's still really annoying. And I think if this was like 100%, it would be completely, utterly insane. But it's still really annoying when in a crucial moment you roll that 20% and you don't get your counterattacks. So I think the skill, just because there's like that 20% chance for things to go wrong, I'm gonna put this into insane. And not quite into the God Tier category. So yeah. And let's move on to Undead. Alright, let's start with Death Stench. So Death Stench reduces melee resistance, parry, and dodge chance by 10% for 2 turns. And the mastery reduces it by 15%. Instead, it's an AoE effect, and Undead Warriors are immune to it. This lasts for 2 rounds, and the basic lasts for 3 rounds. It's basically a better, what do you call it? I think it's a better insult. It's arguably a better insult because it's AoE and stuff, and it also affects like the dodge and parry. I don't remember where I actually put insult, but is this good or is this really good? I mean, I'm gonna put this like, let's put this one to like really good. Yeah, I don't think you can like go wrong with this skill. I don't know if you want this skill on like every single undead unit. Probably not. Um, you can kind of support some Daredevil builds with this skill because it gives the minus 10% dodge. The Undead Warband can have troubles with parry, so it also kind of deals with parry. So yeah, the mastery. I think I find myself like a lot of times just having trouble investing into this skill, into the mastery. So I think I'm gonna put the mastery just into good. I mean, I can definitely see the skill being picked up and stuff. So Death Trap. I've never actually used this. I've never used these traps. I only got like. I only remember like Para using the traps against me when I was a young man and I was playing Poison Skaven in a tournament which had unlimited antidotes. I'm getting flashbacks. So Death Trap. So I think you could kind of use this on some melee resistance tanks, to be honest. You can also use this on like every single Warbands member of your team. I mean, this lasts for 4 rounds, so that's a lot. I would probably consider using like the basic version on like a melee resistance tank if they have like a free skill slot. I mean, these traps, they're probably like the top of not bad. I mean, I recognize, but the effect is like so incredibly powerful. I do recognize it. But I need to lose to it more to actually recognize it properly. Because I don't really see people playing this in these trap builds. Now let me talk about ICU. For ICU, I think the skill just makes a lot of sense for this warband. It gives initiative. It gives minus initiative. It gives minus fear, minus terror. It's exactly what the undead want to be doing. It makes a lot of sense. I think this skill might be like arguably even better. Arguably. Because you get like better two-turning opportunities. Like this skill is like more defensive. This skill is like more offensive because of the two-turning potential. And also, what do you call it? The fact that you can see the enemy at all times. It's relevant. It's information. So I'm gonna put. I probably wouldn't like invest like 6 skill points into this. Like I cannot see myself putting like 6 skill points into this, especially since this is stackable. I think this is bad. This is bad, but this one is actually pretty good. I mean, if like a melee resistance tank, like a Serenity tank, steps on the strap, they might be in big trouble because they get minus 20% to their terror resistance. And if you stack it with some other effects, they might get really messed up. Now let's talk about Find a Breach. Yeah, Find a Breach. So basically, this skill is kind of like Swarm, but the undead get plus 10% armor penetration, and the mastery, they get plus 20% armor penetration. This skill is like really good. It just makes a lot of sense for the undead because they like swarming enemy units. all their henchmen are actually melee, and even like necromancers can go melee, right? I mean, 10% armor penetration is a lot. Yeah, and I think you can like set up your warband in such way to make like full use of the skill. So I think this one is really good, and I think this one in the right warband is kind of insane. 20% armor penetration, just getting it like that, right? Imagine you're attacking with a two-handed axe against full heavy armor, and you have the perforation rune. You're gonna be doing. You're gonna have 53 armor penetration. Kind of crazy. And then you might like even be able to two-turn them and stuff. Yeah. Add in break armor too. I probably wouldn't add it because I think this is probably enough. You can add armor break, but the thing is that this sort of warband doesn't really invest all that much into armor breaking. Because they are very low accuracy warbands. They do get to 9 accuracy, but yeah. I think this goes really good. Okay, let's talk about another one. It's called embedded word stones. So embedded word stones. Basically, the basic version costs nothing. So it's kind of like versus corruption. It just gives you plus 15% word stone resistance. And the mastery gives you plus 30% word stone resistance, but it gives you yeah, it's easy to master. So this one, so like the way you first of all, before you use the skill, you go to Google and you Google because the skill grants immunity to quarter of detrimental word stone effects. First of all, you just Google what these effects are, and then this one grants immunity to half of them, to half of all detrimental effects. So first of all, you just Google what these effects are, and then you find out that it's actually like pretty good, this stuff. The main takeaway is that this skill, if you have this skill, your warband members, your character cannot roll a wordstone effect that makes it their melee attack cost more, and that's a huge deal. That's a huge deal. And for the mastery, the huge deal here is that you cannot roll +1 to your offensive +1 offensive points to your spells. So this is incredibly relevant to the necromancer, right? The rest of it is just kind of whatever, to be honest. Since the skill is free, I'm gonna put this to good, because it's good. You can just get it on your warband members, and they should be safe from that like offensive points melee attack tragedy that can happen. And the mastery, you can put the mastery on the necromancer, because necromancer loves touching wordstone all the time, and if you get +1 to your spells, that sucks. That's really bad, because then your necromancer doesn't make sense. It stops making sense. So I'm gonna actually put this into really good. I think necromancers can afford to go for this skill. I think they have the space for it. And the last skill. Okay, so let's read out what actually, because Leas wrote what it actually does. So basic embedded verse sound protects against block switch weapons. That's relevant. That's really relevant for ghouls. Athleticism reduction, we don't care. Cost of shoot, aim increase, that can be relevant for some of your heroes. And attack cost increase. Mastery protects against physical, mental, martial decrease, which always sucks, and spell cost increase. Thank you. Thank you, Lias, for putting it. Yeah. So yeah, I think this placement just kind of makes sense. And that leaves us with the last skill. It's called Body Reconstruction, which is basically a better Hardy and a cheaper Hardy. So this one gives basically plus 25 to wounds, and this one gives plus 75 to wounds. It's really freaking cheap, so you can get it on your Warband members immediately, and they're gonna be more tough, they're gonna last longer, and this is probably one of the first skills you're gonna be getting on your Warband members, and this is also probably gonna be one of the first skills you're gonna be getting on your Warband members. What I think is overrated, especially on undead, is overstacking these like getting too much wounds, like too much wounds on one character. I don't think you necessarily need to go for hardy and the body reconstruction and get like 20 toughness, because I've seen like some undead builds which don't do anything. Like, yeah, sure, it's cool that you have like 500 health and like 50% armor, but you deal no damage to me, you know, and then I just kill you. But slower because you have 500 health, but you apply no pressure on me because you don't deal any damage to me. You just have like these big damage sponges which don't do anything. So yeah, body reconstruction is really freaking good. It's I think overrated with Hardy in combination with Hardy. And I think on like some characters like Vampire, for example, you can also go for body reconstruction and just go for the 9 toughness. And instead just use all your other physical skill points, put it into the strength for more damage, so that you're actually some kind of a threat to your enemies, right? So yeah, I'm gonna put this one in insane because it's really freaking cheap. It's a better, cheaper hardy, and this one is god tier, of course.